Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. Welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She's a woman who's seeking a greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her conversations will introduce you to talented women who speak to your spirituality, sensuality, and soul. They share their stories and explain how they are in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest on this week's episode is nutritional therapist and wellbeing coach Kriss Höss. Her passion is to bring people back in line with their optimal health by understanding why nutrition is intrinsic to true wellness. During our conversation, she shares the wisdom she gained whilst overcoming her own health challenges, why it's important to maintain an alkaline state in our bodies, and the foods we can use to assist with our emotions during this period of global upheaval. We also talk about ways to manage our eating when we're feeling emotional and how best to keep our vibrations high. So as always, I begin by asking my guests, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel you're most HER?
When I am doing things that really make my heart sing, and that could be being by the beach somewhere nice in the sunshine, being with people that I really love, or just messing about with my cats. I've got 2 cats that I dearly love. Yeah, and that really brings my vibration up.
Perfect. So just so that everyone can get to know a bit about you and your work, Kriss, can you just talk briefly about your story and how you got into the work that you're doing today?
Of course, sure. So I work in the field of health and well-being. In fact, I'm a holistic health and quantum well-being coach and also a nutritional therapist. And how did I get here? It started probably about 10, 12 years ago when my own health was compromised. When I allowed to compromise my own health. And I'm saying this now with the hindsight that I have all those years later. So just to give you a bit more about my personal background, I was working in London, in central London, in a very stressful and pressurized job in about 2007, 2008. It was a completely different industry. It was actually recruitment. And anybody listening who might be working in the same industry or a similar industry, whether that is recruitment or property or you name it, target-driven environments might be able to resonate with that. So it wasn't so challenging on a physical level. You know, I had to travel into work every day as you do, and then you sit on your computer desk all day. But mentally, it was super challenging. And that stress, that competition in the office, because everybody had an individual target to meet, I didn't notice in the beginning. But what happened, I actually started to suffer with pain in my abdomen area, kind of just under where the rib cage is ending on the right hand side. I kept getting really weird pains, and I remember that I actually went to have a scan done a few times because it was just so uncomfortable, and nothing showed up on that scan. And nobody could explain to me what was going on with me, because apart from that pain and perhaps the odd, bit of having to rush to the toilet, nothing really was there as in a symptom. Anyhow, the credit crunch came in London, and that meant for the company to restructure, and I was one of the people that got made redundant because I wasn't the only person with that skill set and the languages that I was covering. It was language-based recruitment, by the way. So I took on a new job, and I was really excited about the new job. I was training people, actually assessing people for their NVQ qualifications. And threw myself in there, and I was doing that for 3 years, and the job was structured in a way that I had to go to different workplaces, and I thought this is cool because it gives me a lot of freedom, but at the same time I've had a lot of pressure because I had to meet targets in terms of caseload with the learners. So I sometimes found myself traveling to 3 different workplaces in one day. And so I had to be really clever about planning my schedule so I wouldn't spend too much time on public transport. And what happened with that additional stress going on in my life, as enjoyable as the job was, my body actually couldn't cope, and I didn't notice. Again, I saw a GP. They gave me some tablets to help me with because what happened is I got really severe diarrhea then, to help me manage the diarrhea. And in the end, this was about 2010, 11. Looking back now, the only thing that I could actually eat during the day to manage and to have energy, and it's really bad me saying this now, but that's how far it got, was a Snickers bar and a can of Coca-Cola. And this is to get the energy that my body needed to physically do the journeys, but also to be present with the learners and deliver all the sessions that I had to do. And if I would eat anything else, I would make sure that, I had to make sure that I had a toilet nearby within minutes, because my body couldn't handle the food. So, and it was awful. And that's where I then ended up having a breakdown, because what happened in my body due to the stress caused so many additional problems. I couldn't go out anymore. I couldn't go to the cinema, go out for a meal, because my stomach would just turn itself upside down, and I would disappear in the bathroom for 10-15 minutes. It was very uncomfortable. And doctors didn't deal with it. We're talking 10 years ago. And ultimately, I had a breakdown. I was signed off work. I was diagnosed with depression. I was put on medication. And that's when I started to say, well, hold on a minute, what is actually going on here? What am I doing to myself with the work that I'm doing, with the stress that I'm under? And also, why is my body not handling the food that I'm eating? Why isn't it being digested properly, and so on? And that really opened a door to a whole new world. And I had a huge awareness shift for myself. I started researching things, what would help me to ease, these tummy problems and so on. And I gradually started exploring the world of holistic treatments and nutrition, of course. And from that point on, I actually had a few courses of acupuncture, and of course massage as well, anything to help me ease that stress. Because see, the thing is, and I'm probably jumping ahead here, so forgive me, you might have to ask a question, but it's flowing right now and I'm going to continue. What we need to learn and what we need to come to understand is that our bodies are really magnificent creations. When I work with my clients, when I do my holistic health coaching on a one-to-one basis, I often use an analogy, saying, imagine your body is a car, right? And the car is there, it's been manufactured, and all you got to do is you got to take the car to the petrol station, for instance, and fill up the tank. Every now and then you have to take it to the garage to make sure that the oil is filled up, and other things that need a bit of maintenance, and perhaps keep it sheltered overnight in a garage or in a car port. Because similar to our body is similar to that, because when you take a moment and you reflect on it, when we go to bed at night, our body continues to work, our heartbeat continues to work, our lungs continue for us to breathe. So we don't even have to program that. Like we program our mobile phone to ring, to wake us up in the morning, set an alarm, or if you have an old school and much better actually for our electromagnetic field, personal electromagnetic field, an old school alarm clock next to your bedside table, you know. So we don't have to program our body. It does all of that. So we have to do actually very little. And the things we need to do is put the right fuel in, which is food, and make sure it's looked after in the sense that we do our MOT, which is have a shower or bath regularly, you know, and get the sleep that our body needs and keep it active, you know. And so there is a combination of things to keep that dynamic in balance. And that's what I started to do all those years ago, you know, and it's not been a great time for me because I actually had a second breakdown a few years later because I thought I had learned a lot and I put it into practice, but it turned out I didn't. So, you know, I had to learn that lesson twice. And from that point onwards, I was like, okay, now I need to make sure that I look after myself. I look after my body because health is wealth. And a lot of people say that, but it hasn't got a meaning. But when you think about it, our body is probably the biggest piece, not in the sense of a size, but in a sense of value, the biggest piece of property, or call it real estate or investment that we ever own, right? Because we can't buy health in that sense. Once our body is healthy and functioning, that's it. You can buy a new house, you can buy a new car, you can rent a new flat or whatever it is, but you can't actually, where we are, you know, you can't have a new body. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. I wanted to say, obviously, right now we're in the middle, or who knows, you know, we could be at the beginning, middle, or maybe at the end of like a global health issue. Let's keep it like that, right? And obviously there has been so much fear around how this virus has affected our bodies, and you know, we're still looking to external and also to man-made substances to actually help us with it. But one thing that has been abundantly clear, because it's something that is affecting the immune system, is how little information is available for how people would actually look at strengthening their immune system and giving themselves the best chance against any external attack. You know, how have you been able to, if you have any clients that come to you, what do you do with regards to informing them about how best to keep themselves strong so that they can actually counter attacks, you know, instead of waiting until they get ill? So, you know, so prevention before cure, building up your body, like you're saying, it is your real estate. And we do so much to our houses and our cars to make sure people can't get in. You know, we keep the outside nice, we put up you know, safety smoke alarms and burglar alarms, and we keep the, you know, we do so much work on external things, and yet we don't do internal things to keep our body. Like it's the only place we live is our bodies. What is it that we can do to you know, have those preventative measures and those health measures from your point of view? How can we work with that? How can we best make sure that we are in the best position from any external attack?
Absolutely, Carol. And I think, you know, it goes back to what I said earlier, that we need to start become aware of our health and our body. And often I hear people say, you know, oh, my body is, you know, this and my body is that, and I'm overweight and I don't like my body, and, you know, I suffer from X, Y, Z. But we've got to learn, we've got to start to understand that our body is only doing that because of what we've been putting into our body or what we've been exposing our body to. It's not that our body wakes up overnight and says, oh, here you go, have some diabetes, or here you go, have some arthritis. No. It happens as a gradual process because we've been putting the wrong fuel in. I'm going to go back to the car, because when you think about the cars, so far we know cars that run on diesel, on petrol. Now we got hybrids on water, electricity, and so on, and it's probably going to evolve in the future, of course, but let's just stick to petrol and diesel for the simplicity of this example. If you have a diesel car, you're not going to put petrol in. You might do that once, but that's an expensive mistake to make, right? And you learn your lesson. Now with our body, because our bodies are organic creatures, organic things, so to say, right? But they can handle these kind of mistakes. So if we eat something that we shouldn't be eating, our body can handle that, right? And we're not going to see like a negative result from that. But if we do that once, but if we keep doing that ongoingly, then our body starts to become out of balance. And you wouldn't do that with a car, but we do it with our bodies. We keep eating the wrong things because we're being influenced by marketing, but we're being suggested through advertising, on TV or in magazines or on the radio that certain things are good for us to eat, and unfortunately we live in such an unconscious world that there's companies out there who produce these things and then make money from it, and other people eat it and get ill. So how can we prevent? Prevention is all about awareness, really. It's about becoming conscious of what's going on. Who are we? What are we? So we have this body, and our task really is to maintain it, to look after it, to take responsibility. Okay, and it's if something's wrong in your body, then look at yourself. What are the actions that you've been doing, not yesterday, but over the last 6 months, 6 years, or longer than that, 10 years, whatever it might be. And it's going back to basics, really. And I have to say, I grew up in Germany, in fact, back when it was East Germany, and I grew up with my very close to my grandma. And she was a very lovely lady. She was born 1911, and she brought us up very basic. I was lucky enough to be able to, as a child, and even through my school years, spend almost every day with her because of how the family arrangement was set up. And yeah, my parents were running the shop that my grandma used to own. And so we could all sit together every day for lunch and eat. And so my grandma cooked every day or prepared food every day, and we would eat something different every day, but it was made from scratch. And she would make sure that we have, different combinations of nutrients, so to say, and she wasn't a nutritionist or anything like that, but she cooked from her heart, and she cooked from what she knew, what was growing on the ground and the things that she had in her garden. She would grow her own potatoes and her own, herbs and berries and vegetables as well. And there's one thing I really remember so strongly from what we had every single week, and it's such a simple, basic food. She would make potatoes with with quark, which is like a thick yogurt kind of thing, where she put herbs in, onions and herbs and pepper, and then she had flaxseed oil with that. And you couldn't pour enough flaxseed oil onto all of that. It gets a very kind of messy kind of when you got it on the plate, but it tastes amazing. And I'm saying this now being fully plant-based, looking back, I have to say, right? But the point is that this flaxseed oil was something that is so nutritious, and she made sure we have this at least once a week. And that's something I grew up with without not thinking about. It was given to me, and I'm grateful for that. And nowadays, people are only just about starting to come back to that knowledge. So prevention is to go back to basics. Look at your food. What do you eat? How natural is it? How processed is it? What are actually the ingredients? Take a moment. Take 20 seconds. It doesn't take long. If it comes in a packaging and it has a list of ingredients, like when you think about it, you go and you buy a bunch of bananas or carrots or apples or whatever it is, vegetables, fruit. There is no list of ingredients on the packaging, right? But if you buy something that has actually a list of ingredients, have a look at it. What does it say on there? How long is the list? Can you actually understand the ingredients? Is there something in there that you can't pronounce? Then you probably might not want to buy that and eat that, because if you don't understand it, what are the chances that it's good for your body? So, that's on the food side. That's a few simple tips. Keeping your immunity up. Again, I'm going back to my grandma. Make sure you get enough rest. I'm laughing here because I'm recalling the memories. She always had a lunchtime snooze. We would literally eat, and then she would push her plate away. And sometimes she would just not off sitting on a table or just lay down on the couch that she had. She had like a little couch in the kitchen, and the kitchen table was the center of the kitchen. So we could, it was, I get goosebumps talking about it now, and it was such a beautiful time. And you just, have a little siesta like the Spanish do, and get a good night's sleep, don't go to bed after midnight, go to bed before midnight. My grandma always said there is the best sleep you get before midnight, So have enough sleep, get clean food, right? And of course, there is so much more evidence now and research to show how good it is to actually eat closer to nature. So saying if it's grown on the ground, it's good for you. Non-processed natural foods, if you can, buy organic. And also, more evidence, more research shows how good a plant-based diet actually is. Move away from dairy consumption. It's proven that dairy products, whether that is milk or cheese, is such a big cause for inflammation in the body, number one inflammation in the body. And I sometimes take the conversation that far with my clients to say, well, look, when you think about it, we as human beings, we are such a weird species, because we're the only creature. Reflect on that for yourself, that goes to a different mammal to take their breast milk, and to bottle it up and to have it, to sell it for human consumption. But we don't actually bottle up our own breast milk, I've heard there is a trend that's growing that actually breastfeeding moms help out other moms that can't breastfeed, and we look at that as a weird thing, isn't it? We look at it like, oh, this woman gives her breast milk to another child, like, oh, what are we actually doing? We're taking the milk from a cow, a mother cow that is meant to be for the baby calf, and the baby calf can't get it, because we want it. It gets bottled up, and the baby calf gets fed with, potentially artificial feed. If it gets fed at all, it might get slaughtered, shot and killed. So this is, there is so much going on, and we need to become aware of that. And yes, there's probably people saying, oh, I've been drinking dairy for years and it hasn't harmed me. Well, my grandma was 95 and she had milk, right? And I say, okay, fair enough. But the point is, things have changed in the last 30 years or so massively. The mass production of everything has gone through the roof. I believe what my grandma had, as far as I remember, I actually recall the days when I was a little girl where the milkman stopped outside, the house with the silver milk bottle, and that was a different quality of milk. And the cows weren't treated as badly as they are treated now in all these big, mass production units and all that. But nevertheless, the scientific knowledge wasn't there either as much, right? And we live in a world, especially in the Western world that we live in here in London, for instance, of overconsumption, right? That's something we need to become aware of, because everything is always accessible. If you want to go to the supermarket at 10 to 10 at night and buy something, you can, right? I grew up in times where shops were open till 6, maybe 7, that's it. If you have it at home, you can have it. If you haven't got it at home, you can't have it. And the reason why I'm saying this is because your question was how do people make sure they prevent, or keep immunity up. So in order to understand the body, we need to become aware that there is times for us where we should eat, and there's times for us where we shouldn't eat. And that has a big effect on immunity. So there is people out there, I can't give a number, of course, but there is a bigger trend again, and which is amazing. And that's my passion as well. My passion is for people to become aware of health, of their body, and to really understand that simple concept. There is a simple concept, and once you get that, you can actually make the right amendments. And so more and more people move towards eating less, which is a good thing, and also doing things like intermittent fasting, right? And I know you're an avid intermittent faster, right? You love it yourself, Carol.
Yeah, I mean, don't remember the last time I had breakfast now. And I don't even like the thought now of getting up and I used to be like a breakfast eater, not always, like the whole fully fried breakfast or anything like that, but just always feeling the need that you have to get up and put something in the body and everything like that. But it's actually nicer to wake up and know that you're not going to just like hammer the body straight off. And also sometimes it's nice to get to the point where you actually remember what hunger really feels like, because I think that we actually forget what hunger feels like, and eating is ruled by the clock. So it's like, oh, I got up, let's have breakfast. Oh, it's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, let me have lunch. It's like, oh, it's dinner time. And it doesn't really give you any connection with feeling where you're at in the gut. I mean, I know when I had a 9-to-5 job, I loved lunchtime simply because it just got me out of the building. It was something to do, and it wasn't always that I was hungry, because on the way to work it'd be bad. There'd be like a coffee and there'd be a croissant, and then just too much going on. So just having like fasting just kind of gets you back into it. And you reference your grandma so much. I reference my mum when I think about fasting. It's a spiritual experience. It's about fasting and praying, and you do get a more clearer connection with yourself, and if you can extend it so that you have a bigger fasting window, or even like take a day off, you're not going to die. Ding ding ding. You know what I mean? Because there just seems to be all of these messages have been like put out to us, like 3 meals a day, or some people are eating like 5 and 6 meals a day. It's like the thought of it, my God, it's so confusing. Like, what are you going to eat anyway? So like the need to snack and things like that, I can see it, because I still snack a lot, and quarantine hasn't helped. One thing I wanted to ask you as well, in particular when it comes to eating, is about eating and using it to manage your emotions, either for good or for bad, especially when we have a lot of fear going around. Many people are feeling more anxiety and depression and worry about the future. How do you give advice in terms of when people are very aware that they're using food to manage their emotions?
So it all, again, it links together, and good on you for doing the intermittent fasting, and yes, I mean we've gone through, or we are still going through, a very challenging time on earth, not just here in the UK, everywhere, right? And it's something that we will only experience this once in our lifetime, right? I never thought I would get to see the world like it is right now, and that it's actually possible to shut the whole world down for this amount of time. It had been shut down in living in the in the 21st century.
I know,
in 2020, it's just bizarre. And when we're going through these kind of, or any time of anxiety and fear, we crave nutrients, specific nutrients. People often reach for carbs because that will give us comfort. The release of the sugar in the body will comfort us and calm us down and just make us feel good, and that's fine. But at the same time, when we do that too often, it brings our body out of balance. And that's something important for the listeners to understand, is that our body, in a really simple way, because I like to explain things really simply, not with heavy words or terminology or complex things. So if you look at the body as a construct, we have veins and arteries in our body, and that have our blood inside. And when you look at Earth as a planet, you've got water everywhere and waterways, right? I'm referencing this so people can understand it better. And the same is like our bloodstream in our body is the same that what the waterways are, or the rivers on Earth. And our blood is such an important part of our body because it carries our nutrients to all the cells, and also it carries the toxins out of the cells, right? And when we eat the wrong foods, what happens in our blood? It becomes acidic. So our blood is meant to be alkaline, and there is a spectrum, it's called a pH level, really. And when that pH level has the wrong number on the scale, so the scale goes from 0, which is acidic, which is where you do not want to be, to 14, which is super alkaline. And naturally, for human blood pH level, we should be around 7.35 to 7.45 to have an alkaline, slightly alkaline blood pH level, which means when we maintain that through the right nutrition, through very little stress, through enough sleep, through physical activity, all of this works together. And probably the biggest part of this is food and nutrition to impact that. When we maintain this alkaline pH state of our blood, it's very, very difficult for illness to settle, right? When we slip into being acidic because of, and I've been there myself, like on what you said earlier, when I used to work in those pressuring jobs, I didn't actually have breakfast at home because I had to get out of the house so early in the morning. And I didn't feel like I wanted to eat, but on the way I would pass the supermarket and I'd pick up an almond croissant or whatever it was. And it's a lot of carbs and sugar that gives you the energy to make your journey, that gives you a bit of a rush to get going in the day. But at the same time, it's packed with fat and sugar. And that if you do this regularly, again, it is the regularity of things that will bring you out of whack. So that pushes your pH level into the acidic side of things, away from being alkaline. And if you keep doing this for weeks and weeks and months and years, your body starts to manifest illness. So going through a challenging time like it is right now, we want to be alkaline. We want to eat clean, green food, green vegetables, ideally, because they help us the quickest to become alkaline. We want to cut out dairy, sugary products. We do want to cut out meat as well. And yes, you can perfectly survive on a plant-based diet, and you'll get enough protein. If you look for your chickpeas, your beans, or get a nice healthy protein shake if you feel like you're not getting enough. And also to go back to your question of how to, let me just try to recall that.
Emotional eating.
Yes, the emotional eating. So is to really stop and notice, hold on a minute, what's going on with me right now? Why do I feel like I need to go to that kitchen cupboard again and have another biscuit or whatever you're reaching for? What have I been doing? It's really to acknowledge yourself like you would speak to your best friend and say, hey, what's going on with you? You've been to this cupboard 10 minutes ago. Why do you feel that way? What's making you feel that way? And just to have that dialogue with yourself, because our body is a thing of habit, right? A creature of habit. So we eat certain things that make us feel good. So our body remembers that and goes, next time I'm in this situation, I want more of that, right? And so we build habits, right? And we can change these habits to have a different feel-good experience, of course, but it's challenging and often requires help from outside. So self-reflection is a big thing, in terms of emotional eating, to really catch yourself and make yourself stop and say, hold on, why do I feel like I need to eat that whole bar of chocolate? Again, I'm referencing my grandma. She always kept dark chocolate. She had yes, she had next to that couch, that little couch where she had her lunchtime snooze on, was a sewing machine, like, in the cupboard. And the cupboard had like 3 drawers on the left hand side. And in that bottom drawer, she always kept 1 or 2 bars of dark chocolate, right? And she would say, come, let's have a piece, right? Just 1 piece. Can you break 2 pieces? And that was the task for me. And as a child, I had to break 2 pieces, 1 for her, 1 for me. And then we put it back into the cupboard, right? Into the drawer. We would never go through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. That's something she taught me, like you can have a little and that's it, control yourself, because just appreciate that little bit what you have. It's the same taste, it's the same flavor, and you can make that 1 piece last, for half a minute or so. Just, again, it's about slowing down. Slow down, become aware, become conscious. What are you eating? Why are you eating? And when you eat, acknowledge the flavors. Conscious eating is something that we all need to come back to, especially living in busy cities, big cities. I think it's easier for people who live perhaps with families and out in nature, because you tend to sit down and you sit around the table and you have your food, and you might even have a conversation, put the phones away, turn the TV off, turn the radio off, and just be with the people, be with your food. If you're by yourself, if you can, sit outside or look out the window and look at your food, appreciate the food, appreciate the colors on your plate, appreciate the flavors, and also think about what it took for that food to appear, on your plate. You might have cooked it amazing, appreciate yourself for cooking it, but also appreciate the people that, and you can do this just in a few seconds. Like, I'm going to give you an example of blueberries. Just, next time you eat blueberries, just think, wow, they might have come from Spain or somewhere else, just check it on the box and think, I wonder how many people were involved in growing these blueberries, from the people that put the seeds in the soil and that watered it regularly, to the people that harvested it, that put it onto, maybe the truck and that drove them into the factory, all of these things. And there it is. We go to the shop, we buy it, we put it in the fridge, and then 10 seconds, we've demolished it, right? We've eaten it, it's gone. So just taking that moment and to really become present and aware. And also at the same time, that should help people to actually start eating less, because when you have that awareness and you have that appreciation, something changes, and you think, wow, I've eaten this in 2 minutes, and this has taken 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months to grow, tomatoes, vegetables. I'm not going to go into animals because that's very emotional, when you think about that, how long it takes for a calf or a cow to grow and for us to eat it in very little time. So yeah, emotions, it's become aware of the situation you're in, females, please, women, my fellow women, become aware of your cycle, your menstruational cycle, because there is so much more evidence now to show that, like from past ovulation, let's call it day 14, 15, when we go into preparation of our body preparing for the actual menstruation to happen, and that's something for all your male listeners, to understand as well, because I think if, men would understand what happens in the female body, actually, they would be able to get along. I'm going to say get along, not handle, but get along and appreciate women from a different angle, because there is so much happening in the female body, actually, every month. And I'm going to reference, just to have another analogy. I like, picturesque analogies. When you look at the year, you've got 4 seasons in the year. So you've got your spring, your summer, your autumn, and your winter. And that is basically what we as females go through every month, right? We have a menstruation, so call that the winter. Then we're leading up to our ovulation. So we're going through spring. When we're ovulating, we feel good. Our hair is nice. Our skin is nice. There is no concern in this world. We're happy. We feel content. It's like summer. And then we've got about a week, 2 weeks leading on to our menstruation, where the body is really preparing to shed a huge amount of skin, from the uterus, really. And I'm sorry I'm being graphical here, but people need to understand that it's natural, and we require different nutrients, that's totally okay. A lot of women have cravings for chocolate, for carbs, leading up to that, when the bleeding actually starts, the menstruation, which is equivalent to winter, right, in a simple way. And it's okay to have that, those few days before, and our mood will change, because also what happens is we are disposing, I'm going to use the word disposing, our bodies are disposing an egg, an egg that was meant to, grow a new life. So it's a sad process, actually, for the body, and it's a renewal process every month, again and again. So we need to acknowledge that, and we need to be kinder to ourselves, and it's all of this affects us, affects our mood, affects of what we want to eat. And it's complex, but it's beautiful as well to understand when you really take a moment and you go, oh yeah, actually it's quite powerful what's happening there, and how magnificent it actually is, how our bodies are being created from nature that way. I hope that explains some of the questions.
I think so, quite a lot. It does. So what I wanted to ask you is, with where we're at, and I don't know how much this has kind of crossed your knowledge, and it's still, for me, with just looking around and understanding, like you said, so much, the world got shut down.
Yeah.
And at present, I think we're not necessarily seeing the impact of that in terms of what is available to us food-wise. But you've got to think the entire world shut down. So as a result, the manufacture on certain levels of food, but then just the food cycle in itself on many different levels was interrupted.
Yes.
We're still not necessarily seeing too much of an impact on our shelves. I mean, I've noticed in a few places that areas that wouldn't necessarily, you know, they've kind of cleverly re-merchandised the shop floors a little bit, so you wouldn't really notice. But I do notice that I don't see shops, the shelves being as full as they were. Maybe people might not see, but if you're cleverly merchandising things, you won't notice it. But I've noticed it in certain areas where you wouldn't necessarily have big gaping spaces, particularly in produce. So there is a potential, and this is more to bring awareness, you know, of if there's been a kink in the process, at some point the effects of that process is going to hit the consumer. And I don't know to what level that's going to be, but there is potentially going to be levels of food shortage. So with that in mind, knowing that's coming up, and what would you say if you knew that there were going to be like less foods available on certain things? How would you say prepare yourself for that in terms of the things, the staples that you would make sure that you had in your cupboard at home, so that you can still sustain yourself on a healthy level without feeling that you're lacking in anything?
Yeah. So, and I think I too. I mean, I haven't really gone out to look for any evidence of food being short in the shops, but I agree with what you said there just now, Carol. I noticed that things are being re-merchandised in a clever way, and I caught myself going, you know, this has gone up by 5 pence already, or they used to have so much more of something else in stock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to becoming aware, and it goes back to what I touched on earlier, and you as well, when you said you used to have breakfast in the morning and now you don't eat until lunchtime. You know, the point is we live in a world of overconsumption, and especially with food, you know. And this is referencing the Western world, right? Because you might have listeners from countries that are not as equipped food-wise as the Western countries are, might struggle even. But when you look at the Western culture, you know, we have access to things all the time, and the temptation is there, and it's about becoming present of, do I need to eat? You know, go back to basics. And again, what you said earlier briefly, the feeling of hunger, right? What is the last time you actually felt hungry? You know, I love that feeling of that grumbling noise in my tummy. You know, some people find it embarrassing. I love it, because you know what? If you go back to the car, that's when the red light goes on, and the the display says you got about 7-8 liters left in the tank, and then you need to go to the petrol station, otherwise you push, right? And that's what we need to do with our body, because you would not fill up your tank again and again. If you do short drives with your car, you drive 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you wouldn't pull up at the petrol station after every single drive you did. No. But with our body, we do these things, right? We do some work, we go to the kitchen cupboard, we have a biscuit, right? We do some work, we go and we'll have another snack from the fridge, maybe, and then we have lunch, and then we'll have another snack, and we'll have another snack, and then we have dinner, right? So it's this massive, shift from being, in a sense, unconscious towards food and the impact of food, becoming more conscious, becoming more aware, and so what I want to share with your listeners is that less is more. And I'm not saying this just as a saying. and throw some words out, but there is actually strong evidence and studies done that prove that when you reduce your food intake, and again, I'm basing this on a Western average diet. I'm not, referencing people in countries that haven't got access to food as we have. When you reduce your food intake by 1/3, you can actually extend your life by 1/3. And that is very powerful to understand. So what happens is basically when you cut down from having 3 meals a day, because it's quite frankly what our bodies need and what our body's been given through the food that we eat is massively influenced through marketing, through TV or radio, right? And I'm not saying we need to starve, I'm saying we need to come to realize that we put so much more in our bodies that our bodies need. And that's why intermittent fasting is such a beautiful thing, because it gives you a time frame of about 8 hours that you can eat in, and then you'll have 16 hours where you refrain from eating. You can still have liquid, ideally water or herbal teas and nothing else, but you should cut down on that as well within those 16 hours, because you want to allow your body, your gut, your digestional tract to really do the work it is designed to do. Now, if we keep putting food in out of those 8 hours, then our body, our stomach has to produce more acids, more bile, and all these enzymes, and so on to digest the food. And that process that's meant to be done during those 16 hours, in order for the body to stay in homeostasis, in its balance, natural, healthy balance, is disrupted. So when people eat at 10 o'clock at night, and I have done it before, and sometimes I still do. And I'm saying, when anybody listening to this and want to implement it in their life, try to do it as much as you can. I'm not saying you've got to do this 24/7, but maybe try to do it 4 or 5 times out of 7 out of a week, right? So when we eat late at night, then our body goes into that cleansing mode, and we should actually stop eating about 6 or 7 or maybe 8 at night to give our body time to digest. And then when we go to bed, the cleansing mode is activated. When we eat at 9, 10, 11, the body still needs to digest food. If we eat heavy food, the digestion takes longer, the process of digesting. So the cleansing process starts delayed, maybe at 2 or 3 in the morning. Now, when you get up at 6 or 7 and then you already eat again, the body is still in cleansing mode, right? But what we're doing is we're putting food into the body. Now we asking the body, the stomach, bring on those enzymes to digest. And the body goes, well, I'm still in cleansing mode. Hold on a minute. It's like when you try to skip a cycle on the washing machine, what happens to your laundry? It comes out dirty, right? So, with what happens in our body is it can't digest the nutrients properly, or it pushes things into storage where people then start to put on weight because it's not been dealt with properly, right? So that's why the body is a complex construct, but there is like a core base understanding. And once we really get that core base understanding, it's beautiful to manage. It's almost like getting a manual, like when you buy a dishwasher or a washing machine, you get a manual with it, right? You press this button to do this, you choose this setting to have a light wash or a dark wash or delicate wash. We don't have that for our body, right? And that's my passion, is to get people to have this base understanding. So try to implement as many of those things that I've been sharing today on this call. Intermittent fasting, don't have any heavy foods at night, and all this will contribute to bringing your body back to being alkaline, or making your body alkaline long term, which then means that you have a nice level where it's easier for you to stay healthy. and have your immunity up. Of course, you can make use of, foods such as, fresh greens, like I said earlier, or herbs, that boost your immunity, things like chlorella, spirulina, blueberries, fruits, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, lemon, all of this helps. But you're not going to see much improvement if you keep eating heavy, dense foods, and if you keep eating outside those time frames because of what I've just explained, these core processes being interrupted, and the body can't do what it's meant to do, really. Also what I wanted to say is, for people on the call who are interested in frequencies, and because everything is energy in this universe. So even if it's a table in front of you or your body, it's energy, and we got to understand, we've got to open up to that concept of energy and vibration. And you can actually measure the frequency of certain things, like we can measure the frequency of when we're feeling happy, right, or when we're in love, or when we're sad, or when we're upset, or when we're grieving. So they settle on a different point on the scale. Death is the lowest vibration. There is, like, when you look at a heart monitor at the hospital and somebody passes away, what happens to the heartbeat? It goes a flat line, right? So there is no vibration. But when we're happy, when we're excited, we can feel it. We can feel our heart pumping, right? And that's a high vibration. When we're happy, when we're joyful, when a little child is laughing, even my cats, when I cuddle them and play with them and do the things they love, I can feel their purring, and they make a noise, and it's almost like this lovely high vibration. They are on 528, the vibration of love. So eating foods closer to earth, foods that have been grown on earth, right, on the soil, whether that is berries or vegetables, or whether that is seeds or herbs, they have vibration more so than processed foods. Processed foods have very little vibration. And an interesting thing I want to share with you, so herbs, when you look at things like parsley, chive, coriander, for instance, they range between 15 and 27 hertz, right? That's a very interesting thing to take away. So eat your greens, eat your herbs, raise your vibration, right? Cut out processed foods, cut out sugar, cut out artificial sweeteners, because they all contribute to chronic illnesses, whether that is illnesses in terms of inflammation, arthritis, diabetes, heart problems, skin problems. People underestimate the skin. The skin is one of our biggest organs when you look at the size of it in the body, right? I'm not saying important, but biggest in terms of size. So our skin breathes, become aware of what you put on your skin, again, turn that bottle around, turn that product around, read the ingredients. Can you pronounce what is in there on the list? If you can't, think about buying it. It's a simple thing that I've been aware for a long time, but I've noticed it now more so over that lockdown time, because I've really stepped away from so much, and I'm already very healthy and conscious about the body care products I'm using. But I'll give you an example. So I've been using a very natural shampoo for many, many months, and I ran out of it. And I had a sample, just a small sample of some ordinary shampoo in the drawer. And I thought, okay, let me use that. And what happened from the natural shampoo is actually that my hair, and this might take, for anybody who wants to try that might take a few months for you to see the result of using natural shampoos, but once you do it, you'll notice immediately. So I used that sample of the ordinary shampoo, and my hair had now gone curly. So my hair is natural curly, which I had forgotten about because of the products that I've been using and the blow drying I've been doing, and it becomes straight in a sense. I couldn't see the curls anymore. Now this shampoo that I used had so much silicone and synthetic ingredients that I washed my hair with it, and my curls had disappeared from one wash. I let it dry by air, and what normally I get really like a corkscrewy kind of curl naturally, and they all gone. And I was like, wow, that is shocking. And I turned that sample around, and of course it had silicone and all these other things in it. I'm like, no way.
Right.
It's shocking. Right. And again, also talking about that, what happens when we wash our hair? It goes down the drain in the water. And then where does the water go? I'm going to close the circle here for you, because whatever we put into that water, it never really goes away, because we're talking micro level, right? Micro particles. And even though, yes, water is filtered and cleansed, but these micro particles do not go away. The filter systems in place aren't as advanced to remove these microparticles, and then things will come back out in the tap water one way or another. What I heard recently, about a week ago or so, on the news, and I don't listen to the news a lot, but they were saying that the River Thames here in London has the worst pollution level that it had in a long time, and I think it was declared the most polluted, and don't quote me on that, okay, but as far as I recall, most polluted river in Europe. And what they found was, glitter, microplastics, of course, shopping bags, people throwing plastic packaging away, not paying attention to it, and it all breaks down, but plastic can't break down. Plastic is non-organic matter. So even though it will fall into pieces, so to say, it will never disappear. Like if you put the seed of a cherry, cherry stone in the earth, or a peach stone, it will break down fully over time. But plastic is non-organic matter, like metal, and there will always be a remainder somehow on a micro level, and that causes disruption in the world of organisms, really. And that disruption, can even happen in our bodies, from when we put a body lotion on our skin, that has microplastic or silicone, because the pores of our skin take all that in, and when it goes in, it goes into our bloodstream. Now we're going back to earlier what I said, the river of the body. So what floats around in our body goes into our cells, and that, I'm not saying it is 100%, but that has an impact on our health, and people wonder why they come out with growths here and there, or irritations or eczema and things like this. Eczema can be caused by many different things, but that's partially one of it as well, because we're polluting ourselves with so much toxic stuff, whether that's nutrients, and the toxins go in and then they're in our body through our mouth, whether it's through the air, particles that we breathe in, polluted air, whether that's through body care products. Our skin is not a sheet of plastic. What you put on there goes into our body. People need to realize that. So please, everybody listening, become aware of that, and if anyone has questions, they can reach out to me. I do also work with companies that make very conscious and healthy body care products and supplements as well. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to point them in the right direction, up to the point that they actually produce eco-friendly and they package eco-friendly as well, because that's another level, right? We're going back to the River Thames with the plastic pollution and all that glitter, that glitter that you find on a birthday card or so. People don't think about it. It's once it's produced, it doesn't go away.
Amazing. Thank you. So much information, and I think as we're noticing, I think because we've been shelter in place, quarantine, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, it's given us time to really reevaluate evaluate the way we're living our lives and the way that we're treating ourselves on so many different levels with so many different things. So if you don't get, you've got to get at least one nugget of something of wisdom out of this episode for your health going forward, because we're in the center of this health issue, and where a lot of us, many people, let's say, are kind of given up and just waiting for the answer to be provided for them in terms of their health, when actually we can take a lot of responsibility and a lot of action to actually build ourselves up. And also when we stop poisoning ourselves, food, and like you said, with what we're putting on our skin and on our hair, that actually then starts to open a lot of room for you to be able to mentally deal with what is happening, and also then to start to see clearly, because the poisons will really take a toll on the way that you're able to discern what's happening as well. And when you have that bigger view, that higher view, that spiritual view, things will start to become a little bit clearer. You'll be able to ask a lot more questions. You'll be able to connect with yourself a lot more. And at times like this is like 100% when we need to be as awake and aware as possible. So, Kriss, before we go, I just want to ask you the her conversations questions. And the first one I always ask all my women is, what is the best piece of advice a woman has ever given to you?
I think it would be that a little goes a long way. Yes, a little goes a long way. And as we say back home in Germany, nothing gets eaten as hot as it gets cooked. So what does that mean? Let things cool down and make what you have last. And that kind of sums up the conversation from today in that sense. Look at what you've got and what you need, become aware and make things last, because it takes time for things to come together, for things to grow, right? Yeah.
Good one. And what woman would you say represents higher energetic resonance to you?
Okay. There is not one specific woman that I can or would like to name to answer that question, but I would say any woman that embraces their body, their femininity, and taps into the ability of making somebody else smile from her heart, that is higher energy. Because to do that, it doesn't require much. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require lots of skills. We all have this ability, whether that is young, old, male or female. We can all do that. And it's to have that connection.
Perfect. And what are your favorite self-care rituals and practices?
Okay. I'm a bit of a yogi. And yes, yoga is definitely something that I do as a spiritual practice. How long, it doesn't matter. Sometimes just 10 minutes, sometimes an hour. And also have an incense on. I love the smell of sage, or any other incense really, or Palo Santo even. Making food, making a nice meal for myself, to really and it's not about being fancy in ingredients, but making it and putting that love in while you're making it, whether that is baking or cooking or just making a smoothie, and while you put the ingredients together to really go, I'm making this for myself, and then really enjoying that flavor, that taste of what you made to nourish yourself. Yeah.
Yummy. Okay, and I want to ask you your food. What's your favorite food?
Oh, how much time do you have?
I said food as in single.
Oh, sorry, that's so challenging. I
I
can't.
know.
I mean, I tell you what my go-to snack is. My go-to snack, and that is my kind of breakfast actually at the moment as well.
Mm.
And I have that after I finish my intermittent fasting. And I really like to get myself to the point where my stomach makes some noise, because then I know, okay, now we finished the cycle of cleansing, and it's given me the sign actually. And I hope that's a beautiful analogy for people to take away, that the engine is ready for something to be loaded in.
Yeah.
So it would be a banana with peanut butter, right?
Ah.
Simple banana with peanut butter. If you want to go the extra mile, have some blueberries with it, right? But make sure the peanut butter has no sugar and none of that palm oil nonsense, okay? Just have a plain, nice peanut butter and you'll get to love the taste. And also what I've started making over the past months are super yummy black bean and chocolate brownies. They are my healthy treats.
Okay, the recipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coming your way.
Yeah. So do you have any courses or seminars, or what's coming up next for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm actually I am going to speak and also do a food demonstration, food preparation on a online retreat that's happening next week, from the 6th, 7th, and 8th. Let me get the dates right. Yeah, so Friday the 6th, Saturday the 7th, and Sunday the 8th. I'll be on the Saturday and the Sunday making a smoothie and a lunchtime meal and be talking about nutrition. And on the Sunday as well, I'll be making a lunch, healthy lunch, plant-based lunch. Apart from that, and if anybody's interested in that, I'm sure you're going to be putting my website up, and there will be a link on there. By the way, my website is holistic health and quantum wellbeing.com. There will be a link for people to get tickets to that. If anybody's interested, they're very affordable. They're $25 for the day, or I think it's about £80 for the 3 days. And it's not just nutrition, it's actually wrapped around dance. So there will be dance activity in the morning and then lunch. It's not a whole day, it's about 5 or 6 hours, so people can go about the rest of their days as well. I'm holding regular online classes. Then people can find me, again, they can find that on my website or on Eventbrite. And I do work a lot with people one-to-one, because that's what I'm passionate about, really, to have somebody in front of me, whether that's in person, which is not that frequent lately, of course, but Zoom works perfectly to guide somebody to make improvements on the health and well-being around nutrition and so on, and even do a bit of breath work, because that's another thing I forgot to mention earlier. Breathing is so important. People need to sometimes just stop and take a deep breath in and exhale and let it all go, right? So working with me one-to-one, if anybody's interested, I do have discovery calls that can be booked, which means it's about 15-20 minutes of a chat to see where the person is at, what they would like to achieve, and whether I can be of service to them, and how much time we would require to achieve those goals, how much change we need to put into place. And we take it from there. Maybe we resonate, maybe we don't resonate, hopefully we do. But if we don't, no problem, maybe I've given the person some tips during the 15-20 minutes anyway to take away. Recently, what I noticed, because of what happened with the lockdown, is I do get more and more people that are concerned about being diabetic, or even been diagnosed with diabetes and want to make change. We're talking type 2 diabetes. So anybody who really wants to make an impactful change and is concerned about that, because once your body is diabetic, then that's when all the other things come, and it's just a downward spiral. And my passion is also people to prevent them from having it, or if they are on the level where they've been diagnosed already, to bring them back to normality, because it is curable. It just depends on, are you getting the right advice? Are you doing the right work? And are you willing to do the work that it takes to make the changes?
Fantastic. So just in case anybody didn't get it, can you just let us know where we can find you online?
Of course. So it's www.holistic.health and quantum, that's QUANTUM, wellbeing.com. And I've also got an Instagram, which is holistic health and quantum wellbeing without the G, because it's too long otherwise. And you can find me on Facebook under the same name. Yeah. I'm not a big social media person, but I'll do post every now and then. I prefer spending my time with clients and changing their lives that way.
No problem. Well, that's it, Kriss. Thank you for today. And it's going to be, it's good to just have so many different perspectives. But I suppose, I think with the way things are as well, sometimes it can feel like it's very overwhelming and there's nothing that you can do to make changes in the way that the world is right now. But the biggest responsibility we have individually is how we show up in the world. And the only way we can ever show up in the world in any good sense in terms of being able to make a difference to others is to make sure that we're doing it from a place of health. So I really appreciate that you were able to share your knowledge and tips and wisdom. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure, Carol, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm excited about it, and I hope that people take as much away from it as possible. And yes, if anybody wants to reach out to me to get more one-to-one information, I'm more than happy. And otherwise, people, become aware of your bodies, become aware of health, make some changes. You do it for yourself, nobody else but for yourself, because health is wealth, health is wealth. So stay healthy, and hope to connect soon.
Thank you, Kriss, for joining me on this episode of Her Conversations, and thank you for listening. You can find out more about me on my website. That's carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com. You can also find me on Facebook under the same name, and on Twitter, Instagram, and Parler under Kazmic. That's CAZMICK. So enjoy your week, stay well, speak soon. Thank you.